Good morning, everybody. For those who don't know me, I'm Caroline. And I'm Courtney, and our project involved the determination of the test-retest reliability of data driven from the virtual reality to test perceptual motor function over 3 days. It ain't working.
Click on the Zoom on the PowerPoint. Now do it.
Okay, and we have nothing to disclose at this time. So reaction time is typically assessed with computerized testing, such as impact, which we're all familiar with. And that involves just like pressing buttons with your finger on the keyboard. But what it doesn't assess is more sports performance, which the VR test did assess by having them perform a whole body movement by doing a lunge. Inflammation in the brain can be caused by many different things, such as stress, sickness, or concussions. And we know that this inflammation process creates trouble when communicating between different parts of the brain. This inflammation process will create a subtle impairment that can't be detected by any other clinical test that we know of right now. However, VR does offer us a chance to precisely measure the stimulus of the reaction time. So initial response time tells us about the brain speed rather than just the motor movement. Most research at this time is looking at current central tendency or the average of multiple trials, but we know that IIV, which is the intra-individual variability, will capture trial-to-trial inconsistencies in the brain. At this time, no one has documented any type of reliability of these metrics, so the purpose of our study is to assess the consistency of mean and IIV data that is acquired through our immersive VR system on 3 consecutive test days. So we had 24 graduate students participate, and we ended up using 19 of those who all had complete and data from all 3 test sessions. And these are their demographics that they had of those 19 participants that we included. So for our test measures, methods, we included a 40 consecutive trials of both a reach and lunge and neck movement. So it started with a visual stimulus, and therefore they would move either left or right based on the characteristics of the stimulus. The targets that they were reaching for were just outside of their peripherals, which was measured based off their wingspan to distance. These when they reached to the target, they would get both a vibration and a sound auditory that would say that they hit the target. So this is what the participants saw prior to the start of the test. As you can notice, the green spheres or the targets are directly in front of them. Once they got into the T position and pressed the triggers to start the test, these targets then moved to outside of their visual field. So there was 8 different visual stimulus types. There was a congruent circle or an open circle. In the filled circle, you would move in the same direction that it was going. And in an open circle, you'd move in the opposite direction. The circles either came and appeared in the middle or appeared from the peripherals, and they either moved left or they moved right. So perception latency is from the stimulus onset until the activation of the muscle, where movement time is the movement of the onset until the completion of the whole movement. And the response times is both of them put together. So that is your cognitive plus your actual motor of the motor function. So here we have our breaking down of our data. So we have perceptual latency of both the eye, neck, arm, and step, which was the lunge. And then we had the same thing with response time. And then we also had a rate correct score, which determined like the speed accuracy trade-off, and it was basically your time, your however many you got right divided by the time it took you to get it right. And you could calculate this for both perceptual latency and response time. So we used the Sapir-Wilk test if it deviated from normality, and if it did deviate, we then did a natural log distribution. And then the interclass coefficient, or the IIC, values were interpreted as poor being less than 0.5, moderate being 0.5 to 0.749, good being 0.750 to 0.89, and then excellent was greater to or equal to 0.9. And then so we assessed the distribution of the normality, and if it did have a positive skew, That's what it looked like on the left. And then after the transformation is what it looks like on the right. So as you can notice at the bottom on the left, the superior Wilk value is less than 0.5. And then on the right, it got greater than 0.05, meaning that it strayed away from deviating from the original data.
So here we have in the red boxes, it shows the data before the log transformation and then the data after, and this is for the means. So you can see that in every single one except for 3, we did the log transformation and it greatly improved for each session. Again, this is the same thing, but for IIV, for the variability instead of the means. And this one, all of them except for 1 improved. And then this is our data that to sum it all up. In all of the IIV data, only 2 of the 24 metrics did not need to be log transformed, but in the means, almost all of them.
So across all 3 sessions, you can see that the ICC ranges from moderate to excellent after we did the transformation. And then the geometric mean is actually the reflection of the original data's median. So here, when we broke it down between session 1 and 2 and session 2 and 3, we can see that the ICC is better between sessions 2 and 3 than it is between sessions 1 and 2. The ICC is not as strong for the IIV as it was for the average value. And then here for the IIVs, it actually was better between sessions 1 and 2 than it was between sessions 2 and 3. And then here's to kind of sum it all up and to give you a better picture of it. For the 40-child means for the IIC, we can see that there was a lot of excellent values in there, and that the sessions 2 and 3 had 4 excellents compared to the sessions 1 and 2 that only had 2 excellents. And then for the 40-child IIV, we can see there's no excellent values, but there is a lot of good and moderates, meaning that they're still acceptable and they're still really good and reliable. And that we can tell from sessions 1 and 2, there is 4 good versus the 2 and 3, there's only 6 moderates, meaning that the sessions 1 and 2 were better than 2 and 3.
So here we did the rate correct score, which again was telling you like the speed accuracy trade-off. And we did the IIC for once between all 3 sessions and got good reliability. And then because we didn't have to do the log transformation on the rate correct score, we could calculate the minimal detectable change, which can be seen over there. I don't know if you can see that right there. And then we also split it up between sessions 1 and 2 and then 2 and 3. And between sessions 1 and 2, we had the IIC of good, and then with sessions 2 and 3, we had excellent reliability. And then the minimal detectable change got smaller between 2 and 3, showing that these little numbers detect whether or not it was actually like a true representation of something changing and being a reliable data.
So for session to session reliability for the mean values were good to excellent. The session to session reliability for the IID were moderate to good or acceptable. And then the sessions 1 and 2 for the correct score was excellent.
So to sum it all up, basically the VR test integrated the whole eye, neck, and arm movements rather than just a single isolated tap on the screen like you would do on impact. And also, we also did the correct response time and scores, which was basically the time that it took for somebody to do it, or the correct score, sorry, divided by the time it took for them to get the correct answers. And we looked at that as a speed accuracy trade-off. And then we also did the perceptual latency, which is just more of a cognitive look at it because it's the first little bit and not just the whole body movement of the arm and stuff. It's like more of a cognitive number. And then, so in conclusion, to ensure good, excellent reliability, you would want to have a good, thorough test orientation as the numbers for the mean values were better and more reliable between sessions 2 and 3 than between 1 and 2. However, with IIV, it was good reliability, just better reliability between sessions 1 and 2 than between 2 and 3. So that's different than what we had originally thought. However, in like our whole process of our thing, we've decided that, or we could conclude that that virtual reality provides like a good reliable measure for perceptual motor function to assess and identify brain impairments that may otherwise go undetected.
So we don't want our athletes to go with having this deficiency and us not knowing about it, because a lot of lower extremity injuries come from when people do have concussions. So then, like, why is this?
Well, if you have an impaired brain processing, you are way more likely to receive an injury.
So there's nothing out there right now that can detect this deficiency, but with this test and with doing the VR, it can help us detect this in our athletes, which will better benefit them and us. And these are our references.